just wanted to go ahead and show everybody a beginning of what my next big project is. I'll pan around here behind the shed, and you can see I've got everything growing up the way it just grows naturally here in the back behind the shed. My next big project is going to be clearing this area, getting it ready for next year's project of putting maybe a tree or two in here. I'm thinking a plum tree and maybe a cherry tree. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get to that point. But I wanted to make this room. Right now it is kind of just going to waste. It is a little bit of a slope, so as part of that project there will be another little path and a stairway coming down to join the existing path that I'm standing on. But right now I have a lot of work pulling weeds, cutting vines, and generally having a good old time. I started out already back there. You can see a little bit of a pile, but I've got a long way to go. And as I show it, I'll be bringing you along for the adventure. Part of the reason that I'm doing it right now is that I'm wanting to finish that rabbit netting there on the fence, and of course it goes right through this mess. I had it cleared out last year so that I could sort of put it up, but I need to go ahead and make sure that it's tight. So I'm clearing it out again, and when I do, I'll go ahead and put some mulch or something down to retard the growth of the weeds. I know it's not going to stop it, but it'll slow it down a little bit, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I will go ahead. I'll take a step up there to the other side just to take another shot and show you what it looks like from that side, and then we'll just go ahead and include this video with my next episode. Here we are on the top side looking along the back of the shed, and I'll move it forward, and you can see I've got a little bit of a pile there I've already started clearing, but I've got a lot of stuff to remove. And this little tree I think I'll be taking out. That was a seedling when we moved into the house 20 years ago. So it's about 20 foot tall now, but I think it has to come out. I have no problem chopping it down. This tree is 60 or 70 foot tall. I'm not going to even attempt to think about taking that out. It's just fine where it is. Besides which, I'd actually have to get permission to remove it, and I'm sure that I'd prefer to have someone who knows what they're doing take it down so it doesn't come down and whack the house, which is I'm sure what it would do. It'd have to fall exactly right, and even then I'm going to be losing my fence. But for now, I'm just worried about cleaning all this brush. That is an adventure. Some old man, back to the next thing. Hello everyone, I'm back at the desk this morning. As I've showed you, I've got a new project working out in the yard. But before I go out there and show you what progress I've made, I wanted to go ahead and talk about something that I wanted to consider that only peripherally applies to the garden project. And that is something that I received in the email from my company. There was just a general email blast bragging on their environmental consciousness, talking about how they're doing this and that, and they've installed solar and all these things that show what great people they were for being environmentally conscious. And it got me to thinking, environmentalism, I guess it could be considered important, but how does my life apply to the environment? I'm not a prolific waster of fuels and so forth. I do try to be conscious of what I do in my personal life. We recycle recyclables. Anything that can be reused, we definitely reuse it. plastic bottle. I refill them multiple times and use them for other purposes until they just get too gnarly, and then they go into the recycle bin. But gardening in itself can be considered a form of environmentalism, because you're not having to go ahead and get a certain amount of fruits and or vegetables from an outside source, which then are required to be shipped in and grown on a commercial farm. So you're reducing your environmental impact that way. Yes, you're growing things on your land, which replenishes oxygen, absorbs carbon dioxide, and so forth, which is a good thing. The fact that you're actually working your land means you're exercising, getting fit, which is something I definitely need to do, as opposed to sitting in front of the TV or going to the gym or however you spend your time. So just, I think it's a good thing. Now, I want you to go ahead and consider, do you want to apply something like what I'm doing to your life for environmental reasons, or just because you enjoy it? Nothing says you can't have both. Anyway, let's go on back out to the yard and I'll show you what I completed since I started working behind the shed. Here we are back behind the shed. It's Thursday, April 17th in the morning. Yesterday I spent a good amount of time out here raking and bagging various leaves and pine needles and everything else that was taking up space. You can see that it's quite a bit cleaner than it was. It's not perfect. I've not attempted to get that. I've got to go over it again and rake up the remainder, and afterwards I can start putting down mulch to prevent the weeds from growing. There's still actually quite a bit of viney weeds throughout the area here, so I'll be trying to get all of that chopped down and inhibited. I do have my small tree here. I'll be wanting to take that out as well. I'll do that after I clean up everything else. Try to get it down as close to the ground of a stump as I can. I'll move forward here and look down the way. As you can see, I've got half the job left to go. I have quite a bit of brush there. I haven't even started hardly knocking that down. I need to remove the brush and then get all the pine needles that have built up over the last few years, because I have not worked in this area for at least 3 years, so it's gotten quite a bit bad. But I want to get it all off the fences so that I can improve the netting on the fence to keep the rabbits out. I do want to keep them out so that it does not affect my garden, which last year the rabbits were eating my cabbage like crazy. I hope to actually get some cabbage out of the garden this year. Some old man, I'll go back to the desk and see what else we have for you this time. Hello again, everyone. I'm in the kitchen again. I'm not cooking right now, but I did want to go ahead and talk about cast iron. Now, when I mean cast iron, I mean the good old-fashioned cast iron frying pans. Now, these aren't for everyone, but if you like cast iron and it has some advantages, you do need to take care of it. Now, I don't use my cast iron very often because I have a glass top stove and the two do not mix if you're not careful. I have broken the top on this glass stovetop once before, not recently, but when I first started trying to use cast iron, I did break it. Now, when you get a brand new cast iron skillet from, the store, wherever you buy it, it is going to generally have a pre-seasoned coating, which means they put a chemical process with artificial non-steel coating on there to make it non-stick. It is not particularly good as a non-stick coating, and the fact that it's not iron means that who knows what chemicals that it could be scratching off. It's as bad as Teflon. So what you need to do is remove that coating, and the way that it's recommended to do it is use sandpaper. And on a larger pan like this, I just went ahead and got an electric sander and just sanded it all off until you're just raw metal there. And when you do that, you can see that it get a little bit of a red color from the metal. And then you need to clean that out very well and then season it, which is what I'm going to show you right now. This pan is the oldest one I have. It's been through several seasonings, quite a few seasonings. In fact, I've stripped it off a couple times too and re-seasoned it. But to season it, I need to clean out the inside as well as I can, dry it off as well as I can, and then I'm going to put it on the stove, on the burner, just for a little bit until the actual metal warms up to where it's just a little warm for the touch, and I'll take it off. And what I'll be doing is adding a thin coat of oil. I use flaxseed oil. Other people use grapeseed oil. Some people even use olive oil, although that takes forever because it has such a cooler flash point before it starts burning. So I'm going to set this here until this pan warms up just a little bit. That's good. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to grab some paper towel. And what I'm going to do is take the flaxseed oil, and that's the only thing I use this bottle of flaxseed oil for, is for seasoning cast iron pans. And all that I'm going to do is take the paper towel and make sure we completely coat the inside of the pan. Now, I'm not worried about wiping the excess off, because that's the next thing I'm going to do, is actually wipe off any excess that I can. There's going to be some that sticks to the metal, and will not come off. But anything in excess of that amount, I will remove. That's why I grabbed multiple pieces of paper towel, because the first one actually gets soaked pretty well. But even the second one, you can see that it picks up some metal or some oil off the metal. Okay, I think that's good. Now, one more, which is why I grabbed 3. Okay. Now you can see, or you may not be able to on the camera, you can see that I've gotten the worst of the oil out, if not all of it. And there's just a thin coating there sticking to the metal. What I do is I then go ahead and heat up the oven to 400, 450 degrees. And I take the frying pan and I put it in the rack upside down, so that nothing that remains in the thing dribbles down and coats more, because that would be bad. You can see I've got another frying pan in there. That was from the first take that the recording didn't take. So if I have to do this again, I've only got 2 more pans, So hopefully we don't need to, because they really don't need another coat right now. So what will happen is I'll leave this in here for about an hour, and then after an hour I'll turn the oven off and just let it cool naturally. With a new pan, you'll need to go through and give it this coating 3 or 4 times before you build up enough as a base layer that it'll be useful for cooking. Now, if this pan gets messed up for some reason, if I leave it soaking in water or put soap on it, I've got to strip it all off and start over, going through the process 3 or 4 times. But as normal use, like I used one of the pans last night to cook some steaks, I just have to clean out the crud, wipe it down, and then treat it one more time, and it's good to go for the next time. So that's all I wanted to show you. I hope you enjoyed this little segment, as well as my segments about the work I'm doing out in the yard and environmentalism. So I'm going to end this one here. I'm hoping to see you in future episodes. This is Some Old Man, signing off.